Hello, everybody, and thank you so much, Mirabelle, for joining us. So today
You're
we have
welcome.
with us Kana, and she's going to be teaching us and talking to us about mindfulness for children and for the family. Mirabelle, to introduce her, she's obviously, first of all, a dear friend. Second, she is a yoga practitioner under the Shivananda school, and she's been practicing for 12 years. And she's a struggling meditator like me. So, Mirabelle, I'm with you on that one. She's a dance teacher, author, book enthusiast, and one of the calmest people I have ever known. She has this Zen like state in the most chaotic situations. So, Mirabelle, thank you so much for joining us again. And
You're
I'm
welcome.
totally looking forward to the most and much needed hangout in times like today, which is mindfulness for children.
Great. I'm so happy to be here, Mansi. This is a topic that's very, very precious to me. So I'm really happy to share.
Awesome. Mirabelle, tell me, what is mindfulness?
Okay, so I'm gonna keep it really simple.
Mm-hmm.
Remember that the basic level of mindfulness, remember that time in school when you were dreaming about something and your teacher said, pay attention. Mindfulness is being present. Yes,
Right.
I'm here. um, but it's beyond that because it's being so completely in love with the moment that you're in, that everything else, as exciting as it seems in your periphery, is not you're not giving it your attention in that moment. And as a mother, I would say, there's all this stuff going on when you just have a baby. There's guests coming and there's this happening and there's that happening, and but when your baby cries, you are only there for your baby. So that, I think, would be the simplest way to explain mindfulness to us mums, that is that are always kind of definitely struggling with this.
Right. So Mirabelle, what would be the so I completely agree with you when you say that, especially in times like today when we're so distracted, when there's just so much around happening with us, we're barely being able to cope with screens, social life, work, motherhood, or rather parenthood, I would say. How does one make time or be conscious about the fact that they need to be mindful? Because somewhere subconsciously we're not mindful, and neither are we passing that on to our children.
Right. Mindfulness is something that is a cultivated practice. It's not something you can buy off a shelf. It's not. It's hard work on yourself every day, just like you would to stay fit or whatever is important to you. But it benefits every aspect of your life. And I wouldn't even say of your life, of your being, of because our life is made up of the things we do, the things we want, the things we're working towards, the thing, all of this stuff. But mindfulness is sort of like the um, it's life itself. It's a force of life, which is but it needs to be accessed, and to be able to access it and stay in the in access with it, it needs to be practiced. And so, um, why is it kind of really important for us to do this and to cultivate the tools? Because the benefit that you get from it is so amazing that it's so positive in itself that you want to keep practicing because you see results instantly. Yeah.
Right, right. So when did you start practicing mindfulness, and how have you passed it on to your daughter, or has she started the whole process yet?
um, I think there was a time in my life many, many years ago. I think I was 25, and I had everything I could want. I had a great career. I was engaged to the man of my dreams, and there was nothing that I could think that would make my life better. But I wasn't feeling content, and that didn't make sense to me. It didn't make sense to everybody. Thought I had this dream life, and I definitely felt like I had a dream life, but I didn't. there was something that was not quite right, and I realized that with my ambitions and with whatever it is that I expected of myself, I wasn't in a space of peace because I was always looking for the next thing to do and the next thing to be and the next skill to acquire and the next. So I wasn't able to just sit and enjoy like the moment. Um,
Right.
and I realized that I can run away from everything, but I can't run away from my thoughts. And when I was 16, I met somebody who talked about Vipassana, and I always wanted to go. And so at 25, then I just went for Vipassana, and that was the start of kind of this this ongoing and ever shifting journey into mindfulness.
Oh, right. And so 25 is a young age for kids to act, for anybody to actually start start looking at something like Vipassana. How did, I mean, I know you spoke about starting out because that feeling was not content or whatever. Do you ever feel like does so is mindfulness is not giving up? Mindfulness is just being more conscious, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's not giving up at
Because a lot
all.
of people
Yeah.
just mistake it that when you're when you go this path, that it means a lot of giving up versus being with yourself. And that's why a lot of people even are so wary of meditation or vipassana or whatever, because they feel like it's taking away from things or things that you love versus being with yourself.
Yeah, no, it's in fact the opposite. Is because if you can find the ability to love yourself enough, you know that above all things, you deserve to um, to to feel content and um, to feel like just life is slow. It's slowing down. Things are slowing down. It's like you feel in nature, when you spend some time in nature, the ideas just come to you, and you feel fresh and alive, and it's effortless. Being in nature is effortless.
Right.
And that's the ability that mindfulness gives you, and it makes me so much more productive than I could ever be from organizing my lists and being my X type A personality.
Right.
It's just absolutely mind blowing. And children, I think, Mansi, are naturally mindful because they breathe slowly. Mindfulness is directly connected to the pace at which you breathe. So when you are really relaxed, you breathe really slow, and your tongue touches the roof of your upper palate, and you're able to really focus on what's happening to the exclusion of other things. Which is not to say that you're not aware of what's happening, but you're able to enjoy that piece of cake, not thinking, should I eat the next piece of cake? Because I mean, how many calories can I eat? It's just being that piece of cake and just completely just sort of
Just
like the
stay.
feeling of
Right.
perfume, just and that's natural to kids.
This sounds so alien in times like today. I don't know why, but I just feel like for somebody like me who's so restless and already wants to move on to the next thing, I just feel like I need to know this because, yeah, you're absolutely right, right? I literally feel like a child. So, because, I always feel like the world is a candy store and I need to do something next, right? So, I mean, how do you, so somebody like me or somebody actually like the kids who's very, very restless and who's somebody who's always on the go. How do you teach mindfulness to children?
Okay, so I mean, firstly, I think mindfulness comes very naturally to children. The dissonance comes from us because our children naturally respond to the environment that they're in, and when we ourselves, to no fault of ours, I mean, we're still learning, are not able to hold the center, and be mindful. Mindfulness is like the eye of a storm. So I remember I used to live in a country where there were hurricanes, and I watched a hurricane once, and there's all this crazy stuff flying around, and then in one moment everything goes still, and you're like, what happened? And then it kind of starts again. So mindfulness is like being in that eye of the storm, and everything else is going on. So for children, if we are the storm, if we can't be the eye of the storm, we are the anchor. You can get all the help you want from outside, but the energy that you're carrying as a mother is directly reflected by your child, at least till about the age of 7, very, very deeply. So it's these tools are as much for us as they are for the children, and I have to constantly keep myself on path. And so it's helpful to have the family in on this. So it's kind of like a thing we do together, and it's fun.
So can you share with us some techniques of how to get kids to be mindful?
Okay, so this is the simplest one that we have we use in our house, and this is a little bell, and
Mm-hmm.
it's on our dining table, just by that little flower you see in the back, and anybody in the house, whether they live there or are a guest, has equal authority to ring this bell.
Okay.
What happens when you ring the bell? Everybody knows that when this bell rings, no matter who rings it and when they ring it, everybody stops what they're doing, closes their eyes, and takes 5 deep breaths. It's
Okay, I'm gonna ask you something really strange, which
sure.
is, has your daughter ever gone like ting ting ting, at least in the start?
Yes, yes,
It happened.
yes, it happens, and and then we know why. I mean, we've told her that this is not like a game, so it's fun. So the first few days they can kind of be like that because they're so excited, and they're like, I
Yeah,
can ring you whenever I want it, and it gives them it's nice because it gives them a sense of empowerment, which children don't usually have because we're always telling them what to do, right?
yeah,
But yeah, I mean, like sometimes over lunch we're having a conversation, and Rudy and I are talking about like stuff that's important to us, his work or my work, or and we've forgotten to ask her about school or something, and she'll just ring the bell, and then we stop and we all take these 5 breaths, and then when we open our eyes, we all look at each other and smile. So it's really nice. And then sometimes I feel like, oh, she's like, she's in an excited state, overwhelmed state because of something that's happened or something that she wants and she can't get. And then I just ring the bell. And sometimes she'll even look at me glaringly like, why are you ringing the bell? But because it's like a golden rule. I don't have many rules at home at all. And this is not a rule even, it's just a little, and this a bell is something, there's something very natural about human beings and bell. I don't know if it's a Pavlovian thing, but a bell is just something that makes you kind of get alert. And so we've changed the stimulus response of Pavlov to something very positive. And it's really amazing. It works fabulously for us in meltdowns that I have, and she has. Sometimes we both have it at the same time. It's so helpful to have the mindfulness spell. So yeah, so this is definitely one amazing tool that kids love.
yeah. I'm sure.
And
While you were been talking about it, I was just thinking of all the times that I'm actually going to ring it, and I just feel like so many unwanted, heated discussions could actually be avoided uh,
yeah,
just with this simple thing. Yes, I agree that initially the kids will get excited and they'll go ring, ring, ring. But I also know, the husband and me now have a lot of arguments, which would be like, which are baseless, okay, which are basically we disagree on something which is only regarding the kids or something about school or something about a class or whatever. And I just feel like sometimes you just get into unnecessary conversations and hard feelings just because there was nobody to ring that bell at that point in time. So
yeah, yeah.
I just feel like this is making so much sense now.
Yeah, when you just breathe deeply, something happens. It's magic. And you don't have to be a meditator. And that's what I want to say, Mansi. It's not about like, sitting on a mat, crossing your legs, and, that's not meditation. Meditation is a way of life. It's not, I mean, that's a different zone of meditation, but this is practical stuff that's really helpful for everyone.
Right.
So yeah, so that's one of the things that, kids of any, you can do that with any age really. Um, and The second thing that I wanted to share is a book, and this is when a couple of years ago I was doing the Rhythm and Soul Play Shop, and I wanted to share tools for mindfulness and with children, and I thought, like, it's got to be easier than sit down, close your eyes, and chant. You can't do that with kids. So I sort of started to have an idea because I write books about a book. But then I went online and I said, let me just check if there might be something like this already, right? And then there's an author that I follow that I just love. He's more of a genius than an author. I would say just his genius just comes out in books. And there's this French guy called Hervé Toulet, and I'm gonna try and put it as close to the screen. And this book is called The Game of Let's Go. And you can't, have a sensory experience right now, but all the green stuff that you see on this book is sort of suede paper. I forget what that velvet paper,
Mhm.
whatever it's called. And what you do, I'm just going to read you the first page because there's so little text. So it says, travel on a journey to an amazing place, your own imagination. Shut your eyes, place your finger at the start of the magic line, and begin the fantasy. Are you a car? Are you an animal? Will you feel scared? Only you can decide. Tell the story aloud as you move across every page. If you get tired, find a big circle with your finger and take a rest. But remember, don't open your eyes until you reach the very end. Bon voyage. And there's no other text in the book.
Wow.
So what happens is you close your eyes and then you kind of have to keep following the
Mhm.
line. And just even if you don't make up a story and you do it, it's still challenging. Like as an adult, I find it challenging. And then you kind of go to the next page, but you turn the page only when you can't feel the line anymore. You feel the edge, and then you sort of feel your way through the whole thing. And there are times when it kind of goes on a bump as well, like because there's a cutout in the page. um, and this book is just a stroke of genius. I would say for older kids, even making a book like this by themselves is a great exercise, because you make a book, you own it, and you feel really special about it. And so it really helps to slow the mind down. Breathing helps slow the mind down. Either you can breathe to slow the mind down, or you can do something that will slow the mind down. There's two ways you can approach it. And in this case, it's to do something, and you're so focused on following that line with your eyes closed that you slow down automatically. And you are mindful in that moment because nothing else is in your attention, in your mind, or in your awareness except the sensation of that line.
Right.
Yeah.
In your experience, Mirabelle, what are the kind of, or who are the kind of children who mindfulness works very well with? Because I mean, I'm sure it works with everybody, but my question would be, like some parents say that my kids are extremely anxious. Mine wouldn't just sit down for a second, and forget it. This is out of question. I can't do this with my kids. I have boys, and they would never do this. This probably works with girls or something like that. Is there any truth in that, or you've had experiences where you've tried it with kids who are of that nature and it's worked?
It works with everyone. It will not work with anyone if you are not in that space yourself. If you get into anything without trust, it's not going to work.
Right.
um, because human beings are extremely sensitive to energy, especially children. So if they find that you're coming from a space of not being sure that they are capable enough of doing this, based on where their sense of self-esteem comes, which is from, for children, initially from the way we talk to them and the way we nurture them, That's where their self-esteem and sense of self comes from. They're either going to immediately think that they can do it or that they can't. They're going to think of it. If you think in your mind that it's not going to be a cool thing for boys to do, I mean, I've had boys do this and imagine they're dinosaurs walking in, prehistoric times. This book is so cool because it doesn't have a story. You make the story, and it's so much like a car going on a racetrack.
Right.
It really relates to anybody. It's not gender specific. And yeah, and if you start without that trust, that belief that you can do it yourself and that your kids can do it, it won't happen. They might do it out of force, which will come from a space of fear. My mom said I have to practice breathing slowly every day, otherwise, blah blah blah. Otherwise, I won't be
Right.
happy. I won't be successful. You won't get any much result from that. So it's the space, that the intention space that we come from, that makes the big difference. Yeah.
Right.
And so I'm not sure what we're doing on time, but I had a couple of other
Yes, please, quickly, just let's go ahead. For everybody who's watching us live, in case you've missed out on the books or whatever, don't worry, we'll put them in the comments below. In case you're unable to read them or view them, we'll put the links for everybody down there.
Cool. Okay, so now this is another one that's very easy for children of, say, 2 years plus, even younger. One of the first things we notice our children doing when they're just starting to become vocal is blowing bubbles, right? That's one of those milestones that they're learning to do vowel sounds or whatever it is. So blowing bubbles is really important at whatever age. This is a little bubble solution, and what can help in a moment of mindfulness, if you don't want to use the bell, or if you just want to practice mindfulness playfully, regularly, is to blow a bubble, because it makes you breathe if you do it mindfully. So I don't know if I'm getting any solution here, but I'm going to go. So this is kind of old bubble solution, but try to blow a big bubble, and you can do that if you breathe really slow. So you breathe in, and then you do a magic bubble. And they can get really into this concentration where they're trying to make a big bubble, and so then that's their sort of excitement, so they start to then breathe out longer, and as soon as you breathe out for a long time, your body relaxes. Longer exhalations relax your body, and when you're relaxed, of course, you can be more focused. Yeah, so that's
That's
one.
a thing.
And
Why did I do this?
sorry.
I said that's such a simple thing. Why didn't I
It's
think
so simple.
good, right? I mean, I can just think of meltdowns, and there you go. Just inhale, exhale through this simple exercise. Wow, I'm just like struck. I'm like, why didn't I think of this, right? So, anyways, go ahead. Go.
Okay, and then there's another book which I don't have a hard copy, but I have it on the Kindle. Um, it's called Planting Seeds: Practicing Mindfulness with Children,
Mm-hmm.
and it's by Thich Nhat Hanh, who is like this really well-known Buddhist practitioner, and he he has this, which is nice, I think, for older kids. I'd say like 5 plus. It's called the Pebble Meditation, and there are 4 pebbles. And I'm just going to get my pebble. So you can either have kids do this as an art project, or you can just kind of do it however you want to. So here we have a little pebble that we found by the ocean, and we just followed the grain of the pebble to draw flowers on it. So you've got to have 4 pebbles. One has a flower, one has a mountain, one has still water, and one has whatever your idea of space is. So at any point of time, as a regular practice, which is something to ground you at the beginning of your day or even at the end of your day or whenever you need it, you pick up a pebble with a picture. So for example, I've got the flower pebble and I say this to myself, breathing in, I see myself as a flower. Breathing out, I feel fresh. Flower, fresh. So I breathe in flower and breathe out fresh. And while I do this, I really imagine I am a flower. So I get into my out of my memory what that experience of holding a fresh flower is, and then I be the flower. And it's a little difficult to do initially for adults, not for children, never, because role playing is so easy to them. Um, and when you do that, you're bringing freshness in. So what is it that keeps us, like, gives us stress? The lack of freshness, right? The feeling that we're stuck in this thing of constantly doing, ticking off the list and getting to the next space so that we can one day be happy or one day sit down with a cup of chai or whatever it is, right? So how do you keep, so that's how you feel fresh. And it works for adults as well. And then the second one you do is breathing in, I see myself as a mountain, and breathing out, I feel solid, mountain solid. So we're talking about freshness, we're talking about stability. The third one is breathing in, I see myself as water, still water. Breathing out, I reflect things as they are. Still water, reflecting. And then the last one is breathing in, I see myself as space. Breathing out, I feel space. Space free. So the last two words, like flower fresh, mountain solid, still water reflecting, space free, are where you breathe in on the first word and you breathe out on the second word. So you go flower fresh, mountain solid. So you're really bringing into the you're manifesting the qualities of the things you're saying. And at different times, like when you have too many people around you or you're with your kid and you need some space, just doing this together just brings in that element of space where you don't feel trapped anymore by your situation, so you don't feel overwhelmed. Or if you're feeling shaky about before you go, for whatever it is that you're nervous about, coming to, I feel like a mountain, mountain solid, that brings you a kind of a strength and a rootedness. It just naturally happens when you evoke the feeling of being nature. So this is, I think, like an excellent tool, and you can carry these little pebbles with kids in a bag. Like we made our own bag, and then you have them. It's a travel. It goes on the airplane because we definitely need this many times on long flights. So yeah, so that's one, and then the last one that I wanted to share was a story where you get, and this is nice to do before bedtime as well, where you get kids to um, close their eyes and imagine that they are a pond, and they can describe the pond. They are a pond
Okay.
of water, and so they're very still. And how do they feel as the pond? And they don't have to answer. You just kind of say, and how do you feel as the pond? You're so still and your waters are so peaceful and you just feel so relaxed. And uh, and then there are fish in the pond, and there goes a little fish, and this fish is blue, and this fish is very sad. Watch the sad fish in the pond. The fish in the pond is sad. And then there's another fish, and every time you get back to, you are the pond and you are still and you are peaceful. And the fish represent the emotions that we have. The emotions are things that come into our life. They are part of us, but they are not us. They're not our essential nature. So with regular practice, when your kid keeps identifying, or us as adults keep identifying with, I am the pond, I am the pond, I am the pond, and the fish come and the fish go. then you enjoy the fish for whatever variety they bring, but you still are the pond, always at the pond. So yeah, those are the tools that I think are quite relevant and easy to practice.
Wow, so that's amazing because I mean, a lot of them are very, very doable. They're very simple stuff that you can carry at the times, like you said, that when you most expect tantrums, like long flights or meltdowns or stuff like that. I mean, it's even the book. I'm just thinking that the book in the Pebbles is something that can be on the go all the time. So that's awesome. And Mirabelle, just so to conclude, what are clearly the benefits of mindfulness when for kids, right? And why is it extremely important for kids to start early on?
Um, the benefits are it's so easy to be content when you're mindful. Um, because this too will pass. Like these fish will come, they'll go. I'm still the pond. So your sense of self is not rooted in what you have, what people perceive you to be, how your parents think of you, your teachers think of you, whatever. Your aim of life is not to impress anybody or, to it's not ambition. It's just to be content. And at the end of the day, everything we do is just because we want to be content. Everything we do for our kids is because we want them to be happy and content. So it's a win-win situation, totally, like all through life, whatever age you are. And why it's important is because the outside world, the world of stimulation, is so like colossally alive in today's day and age. The outside world, in terms of the environment around us, like the traffic and the this and the that, and also like the virtual world, which our kids are going to start on way earlier than we did, no matter how hard we try to keep them away from it. Um, and in these times, what will really help if you've got 50 messages pinging and on different devices and things that are going on, and then you've got to manage whatever other things in the real environment around you, you get overwhelmed really easily. And kids today are very overwhelmed, largely also because as parents, we're doing so much. We have our own lives and we have our life with our kids, and it's a difficult balance for us to keep, kind of, and it shifts every day for mums. So so it's very overwhelming for them, and we can't always sit and give them attention. That's expecting too much from ourselves, and for them to expect from us that we're always sitting with them and listening to everything. And there will be pockets of time when we can give them 100%, and there will be probably at least 70% of the day when we can't. In that time, our kids should know, and we should know, that their happiness is not dependent on what we do, and neither is our happiness dependent on how guilt free we feel, or whatever, any of that stuff. It's not that game. If you can just learn to breathe and be mindful, then you just switch and say, I'm the pawn, I'm responsible for my happiness, I'm responsible for and it's so powerful, because tomorrow when you're out in the work world, you don't work out of a space of fear, like I need to perform to get this or whatever. You will perform irrespective, because you're coming from a place of so much confidence, which is so unshakable. Because the little shaking comes, like the fish in the pond, but they go because they're not permanent. If the pond is, it's there. So you come from that space of, yeah, it's not going my way right now, but at least I can see beyond it. I can see beyond it. I can see what I need to shift in myself. Maybe I approach this person differently. Maybe the way I spoke was too, whatever. To be able to have an awareness of how you can keep pivoting, because in today's day and age, it's all about how you pivot. It's just you have to be able to adapt and pivot and be okay with that. And this is like, a corporate mantra. I'm not talking about like, la-di-da, sit on a mountaintop and meditate. I'm talking, this is really helpful. Um, so kids definitely, I mean, this I think is going beyond the competitive edge.
Right.
Everybody's getting great education, whatever. So what's keeping you where you are, you know?
No, that's great. I just have one question, which I thought that sometimes we get, like you said, we get really overwhelmed and we make mistakes, right? The idea is to not make that mistake again. So what we've spoken is, of course, of stuff that you can do, which is avoiding a meltdown, or or just when the tantrum strikes, or just when tempers flare out. But what happens when it's done? I've messed up. I want to correct it. I want to ensure that I don't do it again. How do you practice mindfulness then? Or I mean, is it the
When you
same, or how do you?
Yeah, so say there's a meltdown happening, or you've said something, and then sometimes you forget that this bell exists in the house. Okay, it happens sometimes. And then, but there's something, because you've used the bell enough of times, it's like, like just that feeling of something, and then you realize, because you've practiced every time, now when something is overwhelming, to stop and breathe 5 times, it starts to become a natural response. You just stop and breathe 5 times, and then when you get into that becomes your default mode of operation. Breathing deeply, it becomes extremely default. And so, now, because you're being more conscious of it and more aware of it, you start to see, I mean, before a meltdown happens, Mansi, there's like, I mean, kids don't just randomly melt down like that, or neither do we. There's a build up. So we
Yeah,
can stop at the build up. And what we usually do, because we're not being mindful, the moment the child is giving us a signal of, I need attention and I'm going to start this downhill
yeah,
path into melting down, we just try to say, let me try and finish as much work as I can before the meltdown happens, because then I know nothing's going to happen. So what mindfulness does, at least to me, is the opposite. She needs me now. She's not
yeah,
feeling like I am giving her any attention. She's feeling ignored or whatever. Let me just give her a minute. And that minute that I give her completely of myself mindfully gives me so much more later. It gives me so much more time. I know my kid is happy. And I let her know that, for the next half an hour, I'm going to be on a call with Mansi. So, after that, we're going to play and we're going to make breakfast together and, whatever it is. So I've bought so much peace just by giving 1 minute of mindfulness to my kid. So, I
right.
mean, I can't get better than this, really.
No, I mean that's true. I know, and while you're saying this, I'm just thinking that sometimes when I'm just like before this hangout, my kids rushed in and they insisted, and you saw that they insisted on being part of this hangout. But yeah, just that one hug, taking them out and explaining to them that I need to get on the call and that they're not supposed to be part of this. I'm sure that 30 minutes we've had this discussion without any knocks on the door. So
Yeah,
I've
neither of our kids have come in. Yeah, so that's great.
succeeded. We've done a good job on that one. But Mirabelle, thank you so much. Would you like to add anything? Because I mean, we've kind of overshot a little on time, but if there's anything
Yeah.
you want to add in or say, then just go ahead.
No, I just say, just enjoy mindfulness. It's the freest, most amazing thing you can do for yourself. Oh, and
Awesome.
we have some more mindful books that have come in. So I guess I'll put that in the comments, and it's probably time for us to get going.
Thank you so much. Thank you
You're
so much.
welcome.
Yeah, thanks so much, Mirabelle. Bye.
Bye.